want to be here as kind of a queer person. I want to be here as like a gender minority, but I also don't want to be here just as those things.
Just having these conversations and realising we're all going through really similar things, no matter who we are or what our backgrounds are.
How long can white male mediocrity rule the globe?
What does it look like to have three cultures intersect? It could be really messy, it could be really harmonious, like it could be a billion different things.
Cinema is about everyone telling stories, and none of us is at all the same. It should be an opportunity for us to shift away from telling the same set of stories, like the hero with 1,000 faces idea. We've seen it.
I would certainly argue the arts are not a luxury and they are a necessity, but I think many people unfortunately don't agree with me.
I actually want to compete in the general category, and I want to be able to hold my own and tell my story there.
Teamwork.
But yeah, I guess I balked at that thing of answering in what way am I diverse? That question of like, are you L or G or B or T or Q or I or A or, you know, and that kind of like, that real micro way of identifying ourselves, which in some cases is really useful, but often it can be like quite divisive and also is sometimes really culturally inappropriate. I don't know, I guess that's where my discomfort sits, is that I want to be here as kind of a queer person, I want to be here as like a gender minority, but I also don't want to be here just as those things.
As someone who's bisexual, as someone who is non-binary, as someone who has significant medical issues and neurodivergence, all of those things make me the incredible storyteller that I am. When I try to talk to people about ticking many, many boxes, I'm not getting a fucking award. You know what I mean? Yeah, but you're just trying to be diverse now because it's very en vogue. And you're like, baby, I was doing this before it was cool. And so I think that's the other part of it, of feeling like we're being used, not embraced.
Yeah, or like side-eyed as if we're capitalising on our diversity.
Yeah, we're suddenly cashing in on that queer money.
Yeah, which
Did
is
you
like...
get your queer check? I haven't got mine yet.
I often think that being not a diverse person is really just the privilege of being medium. You know, like you can just be yourself and you don't have to constantly pass that threshold of excellence. And as a result, you get many, many opportunities to prove yourself.
What I'm hearing is that this issue of diversity, it's a wicked problem, meaning it is difficult to solve. And the word diversity, it's shorthand for this complex problem, but it is helping us get at the heart of the problem. And it does give us at least the language as a group to come together and solve the problem for ourselves.
I get really annoyed that there will be one PI person that is allowed to tell that story and get that funding, and once that is done, it's done. And there are so many of us who have completely different life experiences.
They're identifying who your competition is for you, right? Which is my competition is whoever the next Indian director guy is. And like that sucks. Like I should be compared to another filmmaker who's trying to make a period piece.
The way I had to obviously shoot Raids. I had been pitching it and I was trying to get funding and going around, but again, it was the labour that me and my community ended up having to put in to tell the story because we thought it was important, because we thought it was time that we needed to stand up and say, guys, the Dawn Raids happened. We have a community here in New Zealand that don't feel like they belong because of them. I put in the hours, I struggled with my mental health, and we had no budget, and we created this amazing short film Raids that now, that is great because it's out there, and I have so many PI young people that come to me and say like, oh my God, now I've seen Raids, like I can do that, and how can I do that? And we're working together now to figure these things out. But there's just something about that.
My first main job as a lead writer on a TV show, the only reason I'm up for it is because the writer, Maria Lewis, took a pay cut to make sure that that lead writer role went to a woman or a person of colour. And I connected with Maria and the material of what she was trying to do, talk about the empowerment of women and the empowerment of Indigenous women. The entire writing table for this TV show, 4 women, Indigenous women specifically. The team they gave me, entirely white men. It doesn't matter how many conversations we try and have with executives. If they don't get it, they don't get it. And it's not going to change until we have more women, people of colour and queer people in those development roles, but also at a financing level.
The way in which you nurture diverse talent is you take a risk and allow them to do something that is unestablished, or we don't know about it. We don't understand this intersection of genres, so let's see what happens. But we want to uplift all of these folks at the margins that are starting off their careers and fighting for these small amounts of money, like create a pathway for us, because I actually don't see that pathway. I see that there's like a stratification.
It's like the definition of insanity, right? Is to keep doing the same thing over and over again, but then expect a different result. It's like you can't get something different. You can't attract a new audience if you are not willing to take a risk.
People get lost in this city, especially people from coloured backgrounds. Like, the urbanisation of Māori has really affected the way that Māori live in city. There's no place for them. I'm a bit wealthy in terms of, like, I grew up with this bank of knowledge and I'm super grounded in who I am and I know who I am, and there are so many other people from coloured backgrounds that don't grow up with that privilege. If you set up some sort of practice like within the CBD that nourishes that, it's not only for the benefit of Māori within Wellington or living within the Wellington region, it benefits everybody. It's that interconnected sort of community. It's very much like a tuku panel, like woven strands, everything's just woven together.
There's something to be said about learning from the Indigenous and our way of life, because it's all encompassing and it's really inclusive. It involves everyone.
It does.
There's definitely something to be said for us to like strip away what has happened to Aotearoa and look to the people of the land, our Māori people, and what their systems and rituals were, because they are so beautiful and there's just a lot to learn from that.
I'm new to New Zealand. I'm not going to qualify for the Film Commission to get funding. Like, I think a lot of the time for people, at least for me and other examples in my life, like I would have used something like that to go, oh, well, then I shouldn't do this. But like, this is the first time I didn't do that. Getting that money from the commission and the other two organizations, the Indian organization, wasn't an easy feat. But like, because I did that, I was able to reap a lot more benefits than the last 8 years I've spent in the industry.
If we have a voice as a city, it's that we are expanding what the screen means. And we're really exploring immersiveness, interactivity, linearity, non-linearity. Like, it's all like a big, giant melting pot. Laura, you had some very interesting things to say about moving into different mediums with your screen work. And there's a really beautiful quote that I'm going to share with everyone. You said, "I grew up with games, but games didn't grow up with me."
Games is a medium that I'm super interested in. I think this is where media is going. I think it's a place of immense growth. And I think that there's so much unexplored, fertile soil that is being left untilled by this entire industry. One of the projects, the first project that I was working on, an intensely narrative story that was about a middle-aged woman who was based on the experiences of both of our grandmothers. My grandmother grew up in rural Turkey, very poor. There were a couple of publishers that we got into pretty deep talks with, and the one that we got the farthest with, it was the only time there was a middle-aged woman of color across the table from us. So I just want to point out that the representation, not just in front of, but also behind the scenes, is extremely important.
It's really hard to get excited about anything in traditional anymore in that regards, because there's the creative freedom, the ability to explore different narratives across different platforms. I like things like TikTok because it's probably the cheapest piece of intellectual property that you will ever be able to protect. So in regards to being able to go, I want to tell a small joke, I want to do a series of things, I want to create a world, and I don't want to have to spend a whole bunch of money or write a screenplay and protect it. It allows you to have something out there, test it with an audience. But there are better effects in TikTok than I would ever be able to afford to get put onto my films.
But how can we feed this back up into the structures of the industry itself so that there's an enactment of legislation, policy, to make some of these changes that we've been talking about?
I was thinking of Denmark because that's the film industry I'm most familiar with, but they actually have this like They had this thing called New Danish Scream, which was like very tiny, $100,000-ish budget.
Micro grants.
Yeah, and they would give them mainly to very recent grads who had no feature film yet, who only had their graduation film. And there's a lot of people that support the basic principles of universal income. That's the only way to really achieve any sort of equality, is that you would fund everybody and then give everyone that luxury that we all have to fight for and work in hospo and work in any kind of field.
I'm very much in the film as art and film serving a really important cultural purpose, which is completely separate from whether it makes money or not. And I would really love if our local funding bodies were championing the cultural importance of work over its likely profitability. But yeah, one thing that I do notice that is kind of missing in Aotearoa's industry is a lot of support for our really early development of our projects. That's kind of a lot of the invisible work. Like, I've been in the industry for like 10 years, and for the first half of that I was working minimum wage jobs alongside my film work, and then a lot of that I've been going on and off the benefit as well, because the work goes like this. Like, you get the funding and then you're like riding high for a period of time, and then you have absolutely nothing until it gets picked up, and you have to have that downtime to develop the work. When money is really poured into development and people are given time in that space, they're really able to create quality content.
One of the things I have learned about going to film festivals and spaces where I'm in dialogue with other filmmakers is that often I've gone to festivals with the idea that I got to get my film funded. I need to find this person from top who's going to reach down the hand of God and help me make a thing. And then what happens is those people are never there because the cavalry is not coming. But also I talk to my peers and they reach across the table and they make things happen for me. And that is how my projects get made. And I feel like this has been that kind of day.
When you feel good about the work that you're doing and the way you're doing it, which I think is probably the most important thing in terms of sustaining an intersectional film and community and related media practice.
So in order for us to find success, we need to build something new. And is that hard? Fuck yes. But can we build a system that works for us and one that's more rewarding, and ultimately sort of try and do it in a way that aligns with our culture? Because you're right, you know, how long can white male mediocrity rule the globe?
We've talked a little bit about like hierarchy in the film industry and the kind of classic way of doing thing and how that doesn't really work for most of us. And just quietly in our own sets, working in different ways, relating to people in different ways, that is in its own way changing the industry.
Yeah, hopefully we get to the point where we've seen so many different types of movies that seeing a movie about a random white guy in the middle of America feels diverse again. Yeah. You know, that means we've come full circle.
There's like a proverb that we use, e hara taku toa I te toa takitahi he toa takitini, so my win is not that of my own, but that of the thousands.
Cheers.